This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
On this episode of Bantha Milk Podcast,
The Acolyte.
You're with me and I'm with you, always one, but born as two.
Oh, I didn't know we were going there. That was nice.
Intro music.
My country. Feels no good to be dead. Hunting is a complicated profession.
Yes, it is.
And it's one that it pays so well. We only have to do like one episode every like 2 months.
That's right. That's how we do things
bills.
around here. It covers the bills.
Thank goodness.
We're so good at that.
We were running out of money, and we decided we better do one of these and make another chunk of change on it.
Woohoo!
How are you, Rum?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I see the beard is missing again.
The beard is missing. I'm
I-
going with the summer shaved beard look. Yeah.
Should I contact the milk people?
You
Put pictures of it up on.
Yes, Trey actually found a carton of the
The blue milk. How
Yes.
did you have it?
I did not. I don't like milk at all.
Okay.
It was vanilla milk. Cameron said she liked it, and she doesn't like milk because it was a vanilla milk.
Sure.
It's still in the refrigerator. I wanted to show it to you. It is past expiration date, so we're not
By how
drinking
long?
it. 6-7 days past expiration date.
Yeah, we're not opening it either.
We're not opening it, no. But I did see a life hack, a blue milk life hack.
I'm ready for that.
A person bought blue, like a light blue spray paint, the same color as the blue milk is.
And they mixed it with
No, and then drained it and then sprayed the inside of the container and then put the lid on it so that way it still looked like blue milk so he could keep it on the shelf. And he's like, now my blue milk will never expire.
Ah, so it's empty. He didn't like fill it.
No.
He's not filling it with milk. To
No,
reuse.
it's empty. Drained it out.
And then painted it so it looked
And
like
then
it was
just
full.
painted the inside blue.
I was concerned that he was painting the inside blue so that when he poured his next milk in, it looked like he had blue milk.
No.
That seemed unwise.
No. This is not for drinking purposes. This is for display purposes only.
Yeah, Bantha Milk Podcast wants to make it clear that we cannot condone any drinking
of blue spray
paint.
Yes. Don't drink spray paint. Don't drink bleach. Don't do either of those.
This has been a special message from
Yes,
Bantha
it is.
Milk Podcast.
And Tide Pods, not a snack.
No,
Remember that.
They do look tasty.
They
I
do
get
look
it. I get
tasty.
it.
They are
Hey, by
not
the way,
a
we
snack.
are Bantha Milk Podcast.
We're
That's
Mantha Bilk.
Mantha Bilk, which is spoonerism, which is my favorite literary device. But
There you go.
Or error, I guess.
Error.
And our beers are getting warm. So,
They are.
So,
So-
we got some Adam.
Yes, still some
Adam-tastic
Adam
delights
beers here.
right?
We're both drinking.
Mine says blonde.
Yes, the Tatooine Holiday Blonde Ale, and it's labeled blonde. So this is the Tatooine Holiday Blonde Ale. Now, blonde ale, I will Google it to give you the exact.
Great, you got a bottle opener down here?
You have it right there, right
Oh,
on
I
the
do,
other
you're
side of
right.
your. It's green.
Oh, it is green.
BLOND
Green, like my
blonde
soul.
ale.
Isaac.
I actually the first beer that I made myself was a blonde ale. One of the most approachable styles, a golden or blonde ale, is an easy drinking beer that is visually appealing and has no particularly dominating malt or hop characteristics. Rounded and smooth, it is an American classic known for its simplicity. Sometimes referred to as a golden ale, these beers can have honey, spices, and fruit added and may be fermented with lager or ale yeast. So it's like
You said fermented with what yeast?
ale.
Ale yeast.
Yeah, lager or ale yeast. So depending, like, there's all different types of yeasts out there, and depending on if you want to lager it, which is you have to keep it longer, colder, blah blah blah, or make it as an ale where you can age it in just a regular room as opposed to in a lagering facility type space.
So you're telling me that the word lager is a verb?
Yes,
To lager.
To lager the beer.
I
yes.
lagered. You will lager. We are lagering.
We are lagering the beer because it's the way that the beer is made is with the lagering style. So this is very yellowish.
It is yellowish.
It's very blondish.
I would call it yellow.
Yes.
It almost reminds me. I have a Red Bull over there. It kind of seems like it's the same color.
Okay.
Now this visual comparison will do nothing for you because it is in a can.
It's in a metal can that you cannot see through.
That the liquid inside this can looks almost identical to this liquid.
Yes. So cheers.
Yeah, l'chaim.
Smells like it's. I don't want to say a blonde ale is like a Budweiser because a Budweiser is a very watered down type of a beer, but it's a very smooth, easy drinking beer.
This is very easy drinking, actually. That's nice.
It's very nice. Very tasty.
I always, when we go to, very rarely anymore because we have a child and now we don't get to do things. But if we go to like a brewery or something, we'll get flights.
Okay. Yep.
And I always, because Pagan likes a lot more interesting and intriguing beers than I do.
Okay.
But a blonde is usually on my list. If they have a blonde, I'll go for that because I always know I can kind of, I'll enjoy it. It'll be smooth and easy to drink.
It's a good, nice, smooth, easy drinking beer. Yes. So this is delicious. So thank you, Adam, for the blonde ale.
So again, what was the name of this one?
This was the Tatooine Holiday Blonde Ale.
Tatooine Holiday Blonde.
Yes.
Like the Boonta Eve Classic?
Like the Boonta Eve Classic, yes.
All right. So Boonta Eve, by the way, is a holiday celebrated on many worlds. Particularly, it is celebrating Boonta the Hutt, who was essentially promoted to like godlike status among the Hutts. I don't recall the rest of that story, but that's the stuff.
Well, I feel like I remember hearing Boonta Eve during the pod races.
Well, the pod race was the Boonta Eve Classic,
which
is like the race that happens on Boonta Eve that celebrates
celebrating the holiday of Boonta Eve. There we go.
Yep. So there's some
Look
Star
at that,
Wars
folks.
trivia for
and
you.
some people say you don't learn anything on the show in the first 15 minutes.
Who said that? Who
I
told
don't
you
know.
that?
Tom.
Tom said that?
Tom said that.
Excuse me. I'll be back.
So there we go. We learned something today. Speaking of learning, getting our learn on.
Yeah, get her done.
What was that? I don't know. That was whatever. But we have a lot to talk about because today, as we record, is Thursday. The Acolyte. You
might have heard of it.
You might have heard of it.
Disney Plus's newest original series.
Yes, came out on a Tuesday.
From
just
the minds
Tuesday
that brought you Clone Wars.
Yeah, so it's not produced or anything by Filoni. He has really not much to do with it. If you look at the IMDb or the closing credits of it, for that matter, the ACOL, the Acolyte.
That's the one.
That is the one. The creator is Leslie Headland.
Yes.
The series directed by Hannah Copperland, Alex Garcia Lopez, Leslie Headland, and Kangonoda.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy. I think it's really cool when you have just one name.
Yeah, that's it. Like Sinbad.
Or
Madonna.
And the writers in all of these
Donald.
Not McDonald?
No, Donald. Like Duck.
Oh, yes.
I guess
but
that's
two names.
Yeah,
I call him Donald Duck.
Genie.
Even to his face.
Even to his face?
I had a great experience with Donald Duck in Walt Disney World 5 years ago when we went there. We were eating at the buffet in Animal Kingdom.
As one does.
And in that buffet in the Animal Kingdom, characters come around. So first Daisy Duck came around, and I was hitting on her, and she was blushing, as one would, because why wouldn't you? Of all the ducks, she is the sexiest.
The sexiest of the ducks.
Of the ducks. So then afterwards, Donald came around, and of course my family had to rat me out and tell him that I asked Daisy for her number. And he was doing this. He was giving me the eyes. And he like gave me like, you know. Sure. And then he walks away, and there was like a little half wall, and he stopped at the half wall, and he turned, and he looked back at me. And he waited for me to look at him, and when I looked at him, he did the eyes again to me.
Great.
It was great. I was like, "You are a very good Donald."
Yeah,
so,
those guys they get to have fun.
Yeah. So whoever was that friend of Donald did a great job.
He's probably listening.
He is probably listening.
I mean,
so Leslie Highland is the creator, showrunner, and written episode 1. We don't see any names of Dave Filoni or who's that other guy?
Jonathan.
Neither of them. Yeah, they're not in this at all. So. I find it interesting because there was talk of like them getting away from the writing or something like that.
So, I mean, it makes kind of sense to me that he has less of a hand in this because he hasn't really done anything with this time period.
Okay.
Just about everything he's done is, Skywalker saga,
okay.
mainly Clone Wars era, or Empire era. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he, as just kind of his position, he knows, kind of what's going on in the High Republic because they're doing a really good job kind of weaving these things in and out. But
yeah.
I don't know that they need his hands on the wheel on something like this because it's such a new area.
Right, it's a whole different area. And like when we saw the behind the scenes of Mandalorian season 1, he was talking about, this was from this movie and this was from this and blah, blah, blah. And even Favreau was like, wow, you got me on that, Since none of that existed 100 years previous, we don't need him to. It can be a whole different genre, era, a whole different era of Star Wars.
Yep.
So, so that's that. So I was interested to see that at first. But I get a Google alert about Star Wars. And
you must get a lot of emails.
I get one set. I have it set just daily. I don't get every single time something Star Wars shows up. That would be way too much.
Yeah.
But they give you like a rundown. Give me that rundown.
You get that rundown
Can you get
for
the
me?
rundown. Get the rundown for me by the end of the day.
Rundown.
Just send the rundown.
My
So,
dad.
these are just the headlines. I'm not even going to go into the articles except for one of them because one of them will be useful for us. Critics must be crazy. The Acolyte is just another mediocre Star Wars show in Forbes. The Acolyte creator jokes she's not into it after being told Disney's show is the gayest Star Wars ever. Fox News. Shocking. Just hours after release, Star Wars fans think they already know the identity of the Acolyte Sith Lord. Games Radar. Star Wars spin-off The Acolyte pushes LGBT ideology. Entertainment News Christian Post. Yes. Star Wars The Acolyte review bombed on Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes from Yahoo. I'm guessing that one's probably closer to true. Star Wars fans think they figured out the identity of the Master Sith villain in IGN. Introducing the cast of The Acolyte from StarWars.com. That one I do want to get into after we go a little review. Nick's going to give us a review of the books leading up to this in the era. The Acolyte, what is the Barash Vow?
The Barash Vow.
The Barash Vow.
Yeah, that's a thing.
That's from CBR. I don't know what that is. And Star Wars The Acolyte episodes 1 and 2 review from Men's Journal. And then the Acolyte review bombed on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic from Screen Rant. So, apparently, did you ever see that video? Apparently. There was a little kid.
Well, apparently
it was the first time I've ever been
I've been on the news.
And apparently,
yep.
That kid is like 60 now.
Right.
But, so all the articles today
He's
are all
actually
about
the music teacher at the middle school.
in the middle school. I'll have to ask him. Apparently. But yeah, so I guess not a lot of people like it or are happy with it. But
I think that today you can't have a premiere without that.
Right.
And even like I was talking to Pagan about it and getting kind of her opinion on it, and I think that she is being too hard on it. It's too early to get a great read on it. We'll talk more about it. I thought it was really good. I didn't think it was mind-blowing, but I don't think after 2 episodes of Andor we thought it was mind-blowing either. You know what I mean? I thought that was like a slow burn that turned into something really different. I think this feels a little more like that.
Yeah.
But, it's the internet, so all you're going to get are
is negative posts.
People,
about,
I'm angry about this, and you should be too.
And you should
and
be
if you're
too.
not, you're an idiot.
How dare you not be angry at this like I am? Yeah, so, all right, so why don't you start us off with, because since that's what all the Star Wars news is right now, is just about the new show.
Yeah.
That's our Star Wars news segment.
It sure is. Boom shakalaka.
Boom shakalaka. Let's before you do that, do you want to do a commercial before or after your segment?
I think before. I want to get this flow started. We're going to build all this momentum.
Boom 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 boom. All right. So
someone's running out of batteries over there.
Yep, turn off notifications from mail. That's what I have to do next. All right, so we're going to go to a commercial while I turn off the notifications, and then we'll be back with Nick's rundown of what the High Republic era is, and then we'll give you a rundown and our take of the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte. So if you didn't see it yet, during this commercial break, go watch it, and then come right back.
Did you mention the rundown?
Then the rundown. We'll have a rundown of this commercial.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast here to tell you about Michelob Ultra Courtside. It's getting fans closer to the NBA with a chance to win prizes like courtside seats, a trip to All-Star Weekend, and much more. Check it out at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access, Courtside 24-25 sweepstakes, no purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 and up. Begins on October 1st, 2024. Ends July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
Luckily, our microphones aren't picking up.
Rundown.
The dog's barking. Rundown. All right, and we're back from a commercial.
Hey, you get that rundown for me?
Did you get that rundown?
I got the rundown.
I'm just.
This really is delightful beer.
It is very good beer. I always like a blonde ale because it's you can drink a whole bunch of them. It doesn't have a lot of alcoholism in it.
It's hard with like our rating system too because like it's good. I'm gonna drink the whole thing and I like that. But does that like for beer?
Right.
You know, I can't say for me like, oh, that's a Leia because
Yeah. And also like a blonde ale isn't a beer that like is
gonna blow you away.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's meant to be drank and refreshing.
Yeah.
And it's doing the job perfectly.
That's exactly what this is doing.
100%.
So it would be a upper of the middle of the road because it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, but it's not something.
Thank you again,
like.
Adam.
Yes.
So yeah, let's talk High Republic.
High Republic.
So in order to talk High Republic, we have to talk about when the Death Star exploded, of course, because that is when in Star Wars, for whatever reason, they have decided that is
the start of zero.
Year zero.
Year
zero,
point
BBY,
zero.
or ABY, which is after or before the Battle of Yavin. So, Star Wars A New Hope happens in 0 BBY. The Phantom Menace happens around 37 BBY. And
before the Battle
of Yavin, yes. And like The Force Awakens happens like I want to say 40 or 50 BBY. It's like 30 years later, so maybe 30. I don't know. The whole like Skywalker saga happens in that like 60-year span.
Right.
So that's what they've got certain eras involved there. There's the Clone Wars era. There's the Republic era, I think they might call it, the Empire era, the Galactic Empire era, or the era of the Empire, whatever it is. And then there's the era of Rebellion or whatever it is.
The reign. Okay, so the reign of the starting with the New Jedi Order all the way.
Yeah, so that's
right.
all the way like in the beginning. Oh, in the far right, the New Jedi Order.
That's
Dawn. That's the newest.
Okay, we'll start with the oldest.
Yeah.
Dawn of the Jedi is the oldest,
and that's going to be like the. They're talking about making a movie of the first Jedi, and that's going to be around there. Right. That's going to be like 20,000 BBY.
And the Jedi Order emerged. The Republic is founded among the worlds of the Galactic Core, and the Jedi emerges to protect it. All right, so that's a very long time ago. And then we have the High Republic.
Right. So the High Republic happens between like 400 years to 100 years before the events of the Phantom Menace.
And yes. Then we have the Fall of the Jedi.
Right.
That's when Phantom Menace, Tales of the Jedi, Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars, and Revenge of the Sith all happen in the Fall of the Jedi.
Right. And then there's the Rise of the Empire.
Correct.
Right. That's all, the Rebels, Bad Batch, A New Hope.
Fallen Order, Solo, Obi-Wan, Jedi Survivor, Andor, Rebels, Vader Immortal.
That's a VR game, I think.
Okay. And Rogue One all fall into that reign of the Empire.
Right. And there's the Rise of Rebellion, I think.
Age of Rebellion. Very close.
Right. That's
I would give you partial credit for that.
Appreciate it. I think that's our OG trilogy. That's,
New Hope, Empire, Jedi. Battlefront 2.
Right.
And Squadrons.
That's right.
Yes.
And then there's the New Republic.
Bam, 100%.
Right. And that happens right after, after the fall of the Empire, like Battle of Jakku, all the way through the rise of the First Order, right?
Correct. So the New Republic has Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and Ahsoka. That's interesting era in there. And then, like you said, the rise of the First Order, and that's with Star Wars Resistance.
Right.
Whatever. It wasn't a very good show. I didn't like
Right.
it too much. The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Star Wars, I don't even know. That must be a game. And then The Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
This is Tales from the Galaxy's Edge.
Ah, okay.
There we go. Buy now on Meta Quest, an
Nah.
Oculus Quest.
Oh,
So that was an
that's-
Oculus
that's a
game.
video game. Yep.
Oh yeah, that's like
It's like a tour. You can get a
it's-
tour.
yeah, it's a tour of Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, stupid.
Yeah. So
Anyway, and then there's the new Jedi Republic, the new Jedi or whatever, right?
New Jedi Order.
That's going to be the new Rey movie coming out, right?
right,
So,
and that doesn't have anything listed in StarWars.com yet.
right.
So we
yeah,
could.
it's to come.
It's to come. We don't know what's coming.
But again, we're dealing primarily with the High Republic. So what the High
Right.
Republic is, again, it's about 400 to 100 years before Phantom Menace. And it's essentially the Jedi at their zenith, their highest in power and hubris, and like the height of, essentially the same for the Republic. It's the height of idealism. It's the height of like everything. So
This is the time that if you want to live in a happy time,
this is the time.
this is the happy
This
time.
is the time. Now, there's plenty of stuff that goes on. There's plenty of problems, but there's no. So it's like a long time of galactic peace. There's no like galactic scale wars going on, really, not like the Clone Wars and the Sith Wars and the Mandalorian Wars. And so again, the first book we're introduced to the era is Light of the Jedi. It's a novel. There's 3 phases right now in the literature for the High Republic, and so the book Light of the Jedi is like meant to introduce you to this era, and like everything is ornate and over the top and like made beautiful because they can.
Because they can.
So like
yes.
like their lightsabers, and we haven't seen much of it yet in the Acolyte, but their lightsabers are typically ornate and like they've got like ornamentation on them, and a lot of them have cross guards and stuff. Because they didn't use them as much for battle. I mean, they still used them,
Right,
but it
but they
wasn't
were-
like they were
yeah.
having a lot of lightsaber battles because they weren't fighting a whole lot of Sith. They were like sparring each other, and like the architecture like was specifically made extravagantly and like without regard for cost. If it meant it would be beautiful.
The towers all had like gold on top
Yep.
of them. Everything was very elegant and
Yeah, and even like the Jedi robes, like you'll notice in the Acolyte, and this is some of the cool stuff that is like if you read the books, it rewards you for, because
Okay.
like there's different color robes for different. So like the temple robes are different than like the robes they wear out. So like the gold robes with the brown is different. And the one is meant for more formal occasions like that. You'll see the one where they have like the sweeping cape.
Okay,
Almost. And
yes.
That's like their temple robes,
Yeah.
whereas the ones where it just kind of looks like the Jedi robes, but the front is like gold instead
Right,
of that
yeah.
gray white.
And they're very white and yellow or white and goldish.
Right, and it's
where
very
when we see them
clean
later,
and
it's
neat
more
and-
military-esque.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so again, the books start off like at the beginning of this era, around 400, and this show is happening about 100 years after the books were given. So there is some time between like the era of the books we have and we've gotten so far and this show.
Okay.
And kind of the big threat that we're introduced to that kind of starts this whole downhill process is a group of marauders called the Nihil.
Okay.
And the Nihil, there's a whole backstory to them. Their leader's a guy named Marcion Rowe, and he goes back to like this whole cult that his mom was a part of that believed essentially that the Jedi shouldn't be allowed to use the Force. They shouldn't be trusted with it. And, like the Force was something that shouldn't be messed with. And so there's a whole backstory, and that's what Phase 2 of the High Republic is. Phase 1 starts with this whole High Republic phase, and then Phase 2 goes back 100 years and kind of checks. It's almost like the prequels.
Sure.
But anyway, so the Nihil, what makes them different is they have these hyperdrive engines called path drives. Just about everyone, when you use hyperdrive, you have to find a hyperdrive lane. You have to fly out to the hyperdrive lane,
Okay.
and you have to fly from one point to the other using that hyperdrive lane. You can't just like get out and go get into hyperdrive and you just book it from wherever.
Okay.
Because you'll probably run into something. And so hyperspace lanes are specifically there because there's nothing in them. And
Sure.
So
they've mapped them out. They know
Yep.
where to go.
And they talk a little bit about like hyperspace prospecting in this, because a big part of the High Republic and what made them so prosperous is that they started like being able to go different places because they were discovering, like, traveling through hyperspace.
Okay.
And Lor San Tekka, who is like the old dude from the Force Awakens, like if you remember the very beginning, there's the old guy who Poe meets, and he's like got the thing for him, and he gets killed by Kylo Ren. Like, look what you've become.
Yeah.
His name's Lor San Tekka. His family were hyperspace prospectors, and they like are people who charted hyperspace, and they talk about, they're a big part of this whole series. So what made the Nihil so interesting was that they have these path engines, and what the path engines can do is it means they can find ways through hyperspace that other ships can't.
Okay.
So like they can jump to hyperspace from really close to a planet and not get affected by the gravity well, or else they can jump to the planet really close, or they can like make quick tiny jumps and like be gone from here and over there, and doing things that typically like the accepted thing is that's not possible in hyperspace.
All right.
And so they became like the big threat, and there was a big war. It lasted a whole long time. We still don't know how it ends. We just know that when it ends, it does so in a way that like the Jedi, it starts essentially the Jedi's slow and the Republic's slow descendancy into where we see them.
Okay.
The Jedi, like you'll see, and I think we already see in the Acolyte where it's like they're becoming a little more dogmatic, a little more like this is how you do it and that's it.
Okay.
A little like brush things under the carpet so that we look good, sort of a thing. So again, that's kind of the big. I don't want to, like, the problem is like if I tell too much more, there'll be big book spoilers. And the great thing about these books is, since it's not in the Skywalker saga, and there's not like they don't have to think about, okay, where's Luke Skywalker at this time?
Right.
They can do anything. So like there's like a lot of my complaints sometimes in the books is that nothing huge happens.
Okay.
Because it can't. Because like we know, but like in here, some stuff happens.
Okay, like, even in the books.
And there's really great characters. We do see, I think I've mentioned, we don't really get to see Yoda all that much. We hear about him a lot. There is a scene in one of the books where there's a high council meeting, and we see Yoda, and we hear him talk about some stuff, and it's pretty interesting. But there's no other characters.
A spry, younger Yoda.
A spry 600-year-old.
600-year-old Yoda.
You know, prime of his life. He's picking up chicks at the bar afterwards, you know.
He doesn't have his cane yet. That's how nimble he is.
What's funny is I think they even mention he has a cane.
Oh,
so
really?
Like even at 600,
so
he's walking around in a cane 300 some odd years, man. Like,
right. So baby Yoda is 50 years old and is still a toddler. 300-year-old Yoda has a cane. So, so from 50 to 300, they age
really hit
very
a wall.
fast.
They hit a wall, man. It was a good childhood. Good luck out there.
Good luck, yeah.
Oh, man.
That's pretty funny.
So yeah, again, it's the whole point of this era is like they're at the height of their power, but they're also at the height of their hubris. They feel untouchable. They're starting to mix now more with the Republic.
Okay.
Which again is not great. Like
right.
the whole thing at the beginning of this High Republic, as we learn, is that like they cooperate with each other, but the one is not in charge of the other. Like it's not like in the prequels where it's like the Jedi are there to serve the Republic.
Right.
The Jedi are their own thing, their own organization, and they're on Coruscant, and they liaise with the Republic, and they help them when they think they need it, and they feel that it's appropriate. But it's not just assumed Jedi are going to be coming to battle with us. And then when the poo hits the fan in book, I want to say, now I say book number whatever, but there's also comics and young adult novels that fill in a lot of the gaps on this.
And you were talking about it on the last episode, how neat this era is with the books, because they can create a character in the young adult, and then they'll go to a regular book, and that person will be older or whatever, but it'll still be the same character. It'll just be the next story arc for that person.
Yeah, and like for example, there's a character named Bel Zettifar. He's one we get in throughout the entire series, and when we see him at first, he's a Padawan. And through the course of the books, like the first 2 or 3 books, I think he's a Padawan, and there's all sorts of really interesting drama with him, and he's a really cool character. But then, like at the end of the book, one of the books, like he does some crazy stuff, and then like in the next book, he's a Jedi Knight.
Okay.
So like we don't see that they knighted him, but if you
Right.
like read the comics, that explains that he was knighted due to this, that, and the other thing. So
Sure.
again, it like you can connect those dots as a reader and go, I guess he was knighted in that. But there are some of those moments where it pays off to kind of see some of those things.
Yeah.
Excuse me, beer always bubbles me up. Anyway, so yeah, height of their power, height of their hubris, and that's about it, man. It's a cool era that they can do a lot with, and we get to start off live action with it about 100 years before. So it's about 100 years after. Yeah, it's about 100 years before, I think, the events of Phantom Menace.
Yeah, because in the beginning, in the scroll in the beginning, it does say something along the lines of about 100 years before the Phantom Menace. They don't say the Phantom Menace, but they say, but they allude to that.
Yeah.
Takes place in a time of peace, although lurking in the shadows of powerful individuals, a mysterious woman. Okay, yeah. So, but they did say something along the lines of 100 years before what we've seen, so we know we can put it on the timeline.
Right.
Minus 100 more years. So probably like minus 130 or whatever, somewhere in that area.
BBY. Yeah.
BBY, yeah.
So, your thoughts, Rob. What do you think? What are your initial impressions?
So, it's funny because with the other shows that have come out, like Ahsoka or what was the one that we really liked, but it was like
Andor.
a war one? Andor. Everybody's like, Star Wars needs to have lightsabers. So now all you have are lightsabers.
Bunch of lightsabers.
So if you want lightsabers, this is it. This is for you. I didn't mind it. Like we were saying, like it hasn't done anything that's like earth-shattering so far, but it's not negative for me. Like I enjoyed it.
Sure.
I did find it funny. I have, I got the rundown of both episodes, so we'll break it all the way down and talk about each and every little part. But it was amusing to me in the one part when they were in a cave, and always anything that happens in a cave is always like a turning point for a Star Wars character. But they couldn't see, so the one guy turns his yellow lightsaber on and is using his lightsaber as a light bulb, as a flashlight.
Well, that I don't know if they pull it directly from this or from other media, but you do that in the Jedi games, the Fallen Order and Survivor.
Okay.
That's literally, you press a button when you're in a dark cave, and he raises the
lightsaber up so that you can see it around.
So it wouldn't shock me if that. And so the other thing that I love about the new Star Wars, and I was telling this to Pagan last night, and I think we've mentioned it before, is, due to the older technology being what it was, they were limited with the lightsabers. Now with lightsaber technology, the lightsaber itself, the prop, emits a glow.
Yes.
So you notice in the older Star Wars, it's a light, but nothing around it glows.
But nothing's glowing.
Now they can make it so like when he's got that yellow lightsaber out, he got that yellow glow on his face and everything.
Yep.
It's a really cool effect.
It's a really cool effect. Yeah.
But you're right. It is interesting to see them do that, and I didn't even kind of think about it. I saw them do it, and I didn't think about it because I've seen it.
Because you're used to it in video games.
Yeah, but you're right. It might be like the first time on live action that we've seen. I think it was almost assuredly the first time in live action.
Yeah, we've seen them use a lightsaber as a light,
as a source,
as
of
a
light.
flashlight.
And that's another thing about the High Republic. That's funny that you mentioned that, because like they specifically talk about this in the books. Is in our era that we're used to, lightsabers are plain. They don't have like adornments and stuff.
Sure.
And they think that's not great because that's that way because they use it so much as a weapon.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with the Jedi is that your lightsaber is not a weapon, it's a tool.
It's a tool, yeah.
Like primarily it's a tool, and so using it as a sword is the last thing you want to use it for.
Right.
So they have all these adornments and these other things because they don't necessarily see it as a weapon. It's a tool.
Yeah.
So
and since they're in power and it's a time of peace, they don't really need it as a weapon as much as they do as a tool.
Yep.
Because once somebody sees 4 Jedi coming at them, they're most of the time going to throw up their hands.
And that's another thing too, is that it's not this time where, number one, in the High Republic or the newer era, the Skywalker saga, almost all the Jedi, when we're in like the Clone Wars, are on Coruscant.
Yeah.
And that happened during actually the Old Republic era or the High Republic era, like that started happening because of the Guardian protocols, which I think we talked about.
Yep.
But in this time, like, Jedi commonly did what they called outposting, where essentially like a Jedi Padawan and their master would be assigned to outposts on planets all across the galaxy.
We see that in the series.
And that's what this is, where with in the very first scene and several scenes, we see these outposts.
Yeah.
And like Jedi were common. It was common for planets to have Jedi. People would know who they were.
Right.
And they knew not to mess with them.
Yeah, they're like almost like the generals or whatever.
Essentially.
Yeah, like the high police.
Yeah. Like I mean, it was to the point where like if like marauders are around and they're like, that planet has a Jedi outpost on it.
Yeah.
Like, no, let's not go there.
We'll go to the next one over that doesn't have it.
And so the other thing that lightsaber, like I mentioned, they're vectors, and we saw a vector in the episode. Vectors were the Jedi starfighters. They kind of look like X-wings.
Sure.
But in order to use the weapons on them, you have to insert your lightsaber as a key.
Oh, okay.
Right? And your lightsaber powers the weapons.
Okay, very cool.
So number one, it means that if you're going to use your weapons, you have to really think about it and take your lightsaber out to do it.
Yeah.
Not anyone can just use the weapons.
That's neat, yeah.
And those ships are also created in such a way that they have more mechanical moving parts than regular ships.
Okay.
So that a Jedi could use the Force if they needed to
control
it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
I did find it interesting that, and it makes sense since there's so many Jedi in this time frame,
Right.
that they were able to do so many things. Whereas we see the Jedi during the Skywalker era, some of them can use, force heal. Some of them can, stop things. Some of them can do this. Some of them are just really good with the lightsaber or whatever. But it seems that not everybody, but I guess to get to a master in this time, you need to be able to do it all.
Right.
Like they can do everything at this point. And then as bad things happen and, Order 66 or whatever, and as the Jedi get wiped out, then all that knowledge and that training gets lost. And somebody who may have survived may not have been a full master at that time, so they only know how to do X things and Y things and stuff.
And that was also partly due to what I mentioned, the Guardian protocols. And if you didn't catch the last one, or you have no idea what I'm talking about, the Guardian protocols happened twice. Once in the Old Republic, or the High Republic, after this Nihil attack, and a second time in the Clone Wars. And essentially it's when the Jedi called in every Jedi to come to Coruscant. Every single one. And essentially it fast-tracked training of Padawans and promotion to Jedi Knights. And so you have this. You have underqualified Jedi out on the field because they're losing so many Jedi.
Right,
and they need to replace them.
need to replace them, yeah.
Like Anakin, he didn't do Jedi trials. He was promoted to Jedi Knight without trials. And in the Old Republic, or the High Republic, I should say, that didn't happen until the Guardian protocols. So, unless you did some serious stuff, you had to do these trials, and there were 7 trials, and you had to know your stuff.
Yeah, and they said each trial was different for the different people.
Yeah,
the
it was tailor-made specifically for them.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't unheard of for someone not Obi-Wan didn't take the trials because when he killed Darth Maul, the first Sith in however many years. The council was like, all right, you're OG. You're a Jedi Knight.
You're a Jedi Knight now.
You don't need the trials.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of it, I think what we see is the crumbling, the slow downfall is because of these fast tracking and this. All right, we got to start the war machine.
Yeah. It's kind of like, today's the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. People were getting promoted very quickly because they needed people in the higher position. So it's the same thing with this.
Yeah, he's not the only one, but George Lucas, Star Wars, they like to tell history.
Yes.
Most of the stories we hear are not created.
They're not original.
retelling
Things
that have already happened.
It's the same thing with what's Avatar is the same thing as the English coming over and taking over North America and colonizing North America, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. There's about 4 stories.
Yeah,
total.
Yeah, in the world, and
they're
all
just
all different variations of those 4 stories. All right, so let's get into what did you think?
I liked it. Again, I liked it. I thought it was a solid start. I still don't understand why they're making them short. The episodes, it bothers me.
Right.
Like it to me, I get that they're expensive to make, but then to get more money. Or don't make the show. Yeah. Like it just seems to me like you're not taking it seriously if you're like giving me
and they're
35-minute
times.
show.
The first episode was 40.
Yeah.
A 40 of runtime because I rewatched it today as I was at the gym and I was like, I set the elliptical timer for 55 minutes and because I knew the second one was right around 30 minutes.
Right.
So I was like, I'll be able to watch both of them during this 55 minutes. But the first one was about 41 minutes of action time and then commercial,
which is
not commercials,
closer
but
to okay,
credits,
but
which is close. And then the second one was
35 minutes,
35 minutes total with the
credits,
commercials, with the credits at the end.
Yeah.
So like we're talking 32, 31 minutes of actual screen time.
Sometimes those credits are 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it bothers me that they're not like if you're going to do a big budget live action Star Wars, get the money you need to do it right.
Yeah.
And give us 50-minute episodes. Like, give us 10, 50, like do what Game of Thrones does or House of the Dragon. Because if you can't tell a quality, like, I don't know, I have a hard time taking it seriously when I sit down and then 20 minutes later it's like, all right, I guess
it's
done.
all over for that episode. And you know you're only getting 10 episodes.
Yep.
And you're like, okay.
Is it 10? I think it's 8.
This one might even be 8. So you're getting 8 episodes.
So we're a quarter of the way through already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like the first episode.
And we won't get a season 2 until 4 years from now.
Right. And it's when it's 30 minutes and it's 8 episodes. You're like, come on, you could have given us more than that.
Yeah. Again, I'm kvetching a little much. I thought it was solid. I liked it. I thought it rewarded you for reading the books, but it wasn't necessary to do in order to enjoy it. But yeah, I dug it.
Yeah.
So let's dive in.
So I was a little afraid before it started because we saw a lot of Carrie Ann Moss, who is Jedi Master Indira.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of her in the previews, a lot of her in the trailers. And I'm like, okay, is she just going to be Trinity with a lightsaber?
Right. And, kind of she was.
And kind of she was, but
blessedly she died.
Yes.
Now, there were a couple of predictions made by people on the internet that wound up being pretty spot on.
Okay.
That was one of them.
Was that she
was in the opening scene, and that was it.
Okay.
And that she was the first target of the assassinations, which I don't mind. I thought she could have been cool. I think we'll get her in flashbacks. Because we already did see her a little bit in a flashback.
Yeah, I was hoping that we'll see her in flashbacks, and then I was also like after I watched it the first time, I was like, "Ooh, was there blood? Did she prepare for this type of thing?"
Yeah, no, she did.
And there was blood, so that's the thing with the new Star Wars.
Yeah,
you never know who's actually dead. Yeah,
you got to double tap.
So I guess we're not going to see a lot of Trinity because in the opening title, and then.
So, by the way, I don't mean to interrupt, but it popped back into my head. That's one of the things I did. There are a couple things that happened that I was hoping would happen that I'm glad. Like, one of the things I was really worried about was that they were going to spend a lot of time, trying to convince the Jedi that whatever her name is not the killer. And that it was actually
the other girl, yeah.
It's like every time it's like when the dude's dead and they walk in and she's like, "You're there." I'm like, don't just stand there. What are you doing, idiot?
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, don't make this a whole thing." And then they're like, "No, she didn't do it." Okay, cool. I'm like, "All right."
Okay, good. Yeah, moving on.
Like there are so many more interesting things we can be doing.
Right. Then
when the audience
chasing,
already knows, it's like we know this is boring.
We know we don't need to chase this wild goose chase because we already know.
So I was glad
I
was glad they decided not to harp on that for sure.
Yeah. So the first planet that we see is Ueda, and we see
you ate a what? You ate a sandwich.
You ate a sandwich. You ate a burger. What do you have?
What are you eating?
But I did like the town, the little house that she's in, the
Bar?
tea house, the bar,
It's like a
whatever
bar,
it was,
yeah.
because it did look very Star Wars. It looked very Star Wars. Now, I will say, also being a Star Trek fan, this felt very Star Trek-y to me because there were so many species
Yeah.
and so many.
And they are.
like,
They said specifically they're leaning more into aliens and the weirder side of things. So we definitely saw way less humanoid things than we were used to, or human things anyway.
And the one of the Jedi in the description says that she's a half human, half whatever the other species is, which then led me to think about
The process.
the process. Yeah, and the fact that all of these species reproductive systems all work the same way that human
Somehow.
reproductive systems work somehow.
Well, I was telling you about the one character, Geode from the books, who's
Okay.
a giant rock.
Okay.
And like we never see him move, we never see him talk, but he does. Like he does. He talks to people. He
Okay.
moves around. And there's the one scene where apparently he's in all sorts of trouble because he was hitting on this woman's wife, and the guy was like, "I don't." Like, he wouldn't even be able to. Like they're
Right.
They're not compatible.
They're-
They can't mate with each other.
They can't even
And then
mate with
like
each
in their
other.
thoughts, they were like, I hope they don't look into that because they're like, I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true.
Giant rock.
A giant rock. Yeah. So the bad girl comes into the
May? Is
bar.
that her name?
May. Yes. May comes into the bar. And it was interesting because she said it twice.
Attack me with all
of your strength, all of your power,
Yeah,
whatever.
That's Pagan mentioned this today too, and she's right. It screams George Lucas writing.
Yes.
And I think I see where I'm sure at like whenever the master like sent her on this errand, he said you must have them attack you with all of their strength or whatever, and so she's parroting that.
Yeah.
But it is pretty lame.
It is pretty lame, and it's very Sith-esque because the Sith, power comes from hatred and anger.
And the other, I mean, you mentioned the like article that people think they know who the Sith. I'm sure they're thinking exactly who I think it is, and I'm sure we're all wrong.
And it's not going to be that person.
Yeah,
it's going to be somebody else that we don't know.
I mean, they're really leaning heavy on the fact that maybe it's her friend, the guy who like sold her out. The guy who was
making the spice for them or whatever, that guy.
Yeah, he was Cheaty or not Cheaty.
Yeah,
he was
Jason.
Yeah,
he was Jason from a good
place.
Good place. Yeah.
And I like that's what I think. I think, man, this guy, he's like a kind of high profile star. I could see him kind of being badass, and it is for that reason that I think that I must be wrong.
That it's not going to be him
because I think
at all.
that they're thinking that.
Yeah.
I think they already have thought this through.
Yeah. It's going to be somebody else that we don't know, and it's just going to be another, like, Sith person, just like when we first saw Darth Maul. It wasn't somebody. Like,
Yeah.
And then there'll be a great backstory built up about who this person is, and it'll be fun.
Except if it's Snoke, because with Snoke they just decided no backstory. He's just a clone.
He's just a clone. Yeah,
He's
that's
just-
it.
he was- they made him.
This is actually the
puppet.
first coming of Palpatine.
This is actually Snoke.
It's
the
Snoke.
real
The
Snoke.
real Snoke. This is who the clone of Snoke was.
Yeah.
This is the real guy.
Oh man, I don't hate that. I'm annoyed that I don't hate. I said that as a joke, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Because
that
then
wouldn't
Palpatine
piss me off,
found,
because then it would actually lend some credence to the fact that Snoke was freaking anybody.
Right.
So like, all right, I don't hate. Let's go with that for now.
Mm-hmm.
That is, we're just gonna call him Snoke.
We're gonna
the
call him
master is Snoke,
and
you
done.
heard it here first.
You heard it here first. I did like the kung fu that was going on in this battle.
Yeah, really, all the fight scenes were really well done.
Yeah.
And I liked, again, we talk about the hubris of the Jedi in this era. I like how, like, I know it's kind of the kung fu thing, but like they were really, it seems, insistent on in the choreography, the Jedi should look like they are trying as absolutely little as possible.
Yeah. Oh my
Like
god.
they were all just kind of like.
Everyone was like I took karate 2 different times in my life for a couple of years each time, and I always wanted to get to that point where you didn't have to fight.
Yeah.
You just knew where they were going, and you
backed
just
away.
avoided
Yeah.
them the whole time. And you're like, you look like an idiot because I'm just moving away from you every single time. I never got to that point. But yeah, so I thought the fight was really good. And then I wasn't too fond of Carrie-Anne Moss getting tricked as easily as she did.
Yeah, again, she was a Jedi Master. I thought the same. Like, in the books, there's a Jedi Master who her and another person are flying vectors in space, and they get they get hit by something, and she manages to find with the Force all the pieces of glass and put them in a spot or all the pieces of debris.
Okay.
And find the breaks in the glass of this guy's cockpit so that he's not sucked out in the vacuum of space.
Okay.
We're talking minuscule pieces.
Yeah,
but
like micro
she
pieces.
She can't
and
stop these 3 daggers as well as these 3 daggers.
Right, and not realize that she threw this on purpose because you're going to save the guy.
Right. And
not think that she has a second one ready, So I don't know.
It seemed like a cop out a little bit.
Yeah,
like, we need to kill her somehow. Let's do this. But they did also give us a little early clue that May is not a total monster, right? Because she was going to kill the bartender.
She didn't kill the bartender.
She did not, because the baby.
The baby. Oh my God, the baby was the cutest thing ever.
Adorable.
Like, if I want to, I was going to say I want to see that bartender more. But when we saw him the second time, I was like, "Why are you there?"
Yeah, honestly, get out of here.
Get out of here. This is just a waste.
This is not the place for you.
No, but yeah, like the baby was really cute. It was reminiscent of was it in Rebels when they had to find it was in Rebels, the Force babies, and there was the one baby who was like, he had the big eyes also, but he was just like. Always crying all the time. I forget. But anyway, but yeah, he just reminded me of him. So yeah. Babies are always cute, and baby animals are cute because the big eyes and whatever. So yeah, so Carrie-Anne Moss got eliminated rather quickly as far as we know, unless she is the Sith Lord.
You never know.
Could be. So then but it was interesting, when she took her mask off, she was like, "It's you."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, does she know it's May, or does she think that it's Osha?
Right. I mean, could be either, right?
And the May Osha saying that they said together when they were kids, you are with me and I am with you, always one, but born as two.
Right.
For a while there, I was thinking, like, is this an alter ego of herself type of thing? But it's apparently they're straight up twins right now. But I have a feeling that there's a deeper connection there.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that at the beginning I thought, one's the bad guy, one's the good guy, and the bad guy is manipulating her with these visions of them as babies.
Right.
But they pretty clearly, May was not, like, when she saw her, she was like, "Oh my God, it's my sister! I thought she was dead." So she wasn't luring her sister to her with the, which means to me someone else is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, giving them these visions, bringing them together, which Snoke also does.
Snoke could do that. He did that
with Rey.
And man, it's Snoke. I'm telling you.
People out there think I'm crazy, but they're all going to be like, check this dude out.
She did say, quote, that a Jedi doesn't pull out her weapon unless she's prepared to kill. Which was interesting because she did not then put it away. She was like, "Look,
she's like, well, you see what's happening.
You started this, so I'm gonna have to finish.
I'm gonna end it."
And then we see May laying in a bed, waking up from a nightmare, and but it wasn't May. We find out rather quickly that it's Osha and not May, and it's like, oh, and somebody pointed out, even though they haven't seen each other in, say, 16 years or whatever it is,
they have the same hair.
They have the same hair.
One is just slightly longer.
Yes, so it's pretty funny. But then she comes out of her bunk, and her friend says, and as soon as I heard this, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Nick! They are listening to our show."
I thought the same thing. I was like, "I hope Rob catches that."
Yeah, he's like, how come you didn't come to Nar Shaddaa with us last night?
Yeah.
I was like, yes.
Yep.
They do listen to our show. They know that we want a Nar Shaddaa reference.
Appreciate it.
So that was for you.
Finally. How many years have we been waiting?
Yeah, we've been waiting for years for this.
5-6 years.
So then she goes out to work on some space junk.
It's very fitting that her name is Osha. considering her job and
Is
all the
OSHA
dangers.
inspector? Yeah.
Apparently, and the cool thing about this scene too that ties it into our era is that they're on a Trade Federation ship.
Yep.
And they're Nemoidians who are piloting it. And again, we're talking about, George Lucas, Star Wars, they write real, right? They don't write news stories. They write things that happen. Here is the greedy Trade Federation, who literally, by the way, the reason they have Senate representation is because they're a group of the largest banks and marketers in the galaxy, and they became so powerful that they earned a seat on Senate.
Yes.
Sounds familiar. Anyway.
Soapbox removed.
Yes. So what we also see is like the Nemoidians and the Trade Federation regarding their bottom dollar and their profit with more regard than the people who work for them.
Right.
Because they're saying, oh, they're expendable. Our stuff is not. So again, corporate greed.
Yeah. And it was
corporate greed is essentially what Star Wars is about.
That's true, 100%.
Like,
they also talk about they never have to use the shields,
right?
Which is interesting because then when they get to the Star Wars era, their shields are super strong because they now need them to be super strong because they're not, even though they're still one of the most powerful, but now there's all these people trying to attack them and stuff like that. So we see her going out and she's still she sees the fire, which I don't know how there's fire in space.
Yeah, that really confused me. I said something about that too.
Because
you need fuel, you need oxygen.
Yeah.
And that's it, right?
You need those two things.
You need.
Yeah. And in space there's no oxygen.
There's last I checked.
Yes.
I mean, Pagan was like, well, maybe they're like in atmosphere enough that they're getting some, and it's like,
yeah, I don't think so. But it was very strange. It was whatever. And if there was oxygen, she wouldn't have needed her helmet.
Yeah.
I would think.
I got to remind myself it's not science fiction.
It's not science.
Fantasy.
It's fantasy. Yeah. So then she's trying to fix it, whatever, and then as they're trying to fix it, a spaceship flies by, and they say, "Oh, there's Jedi coming," and then one of her friends says, "Oh, they friends of yours or whatever." So then
we get the biggest tool in the Jedi Order.
Yord.
Yord is such a tool, man.
Yord Fandar and his Padawan Taziloa, I guess, something like that.
Sure.
They seek a former Jedi named Osha Anissa, I don't know how you say it, the good twin. And then during the exchange, we find out that only droids are allowed to repair the ships.
Yeah.
But she says, well, I'm better company than a droid
that's
is,
right.
so that's why they hire me. But yeah, Yord. Look, if I had Yord's physique,
yeah, dude looks good. He's cut.
I would not be wearing a robe either.
Sure, I'd be steaming my robe all day.
I'd be steaming my robe all day.
Alas.
Yeah. So Yord says, we have to take you in because you did this, and she said, "No."
You killed this lady.
She said, "I was here." And he's like, "Yeah, prove it." She's like, "I can't." Okay, well, you got to come with me.
Certainly, none of these people were here overnight.
Right. Well, they were all in Nar
They were all in
Shaddaa.
Nar Shaddaa.
Right. So nobody, and she didn't go, so she could have gone anywhere.
Yep.
So then Yord confronts Osha. We learned she left the Jedi Order 6 years ago. So this was interesting. They talk about how the Jedi Master that was just killed was the one that, and they were leaning into, prevented her from getting her Jedi Master, but then she quickly cuts him off and says, "Oh, I left."
Right.
So there's something going on there that hopefully in the next 6 episodes we find out what she did to prevent her from becoming a Jedi.
Right.
But then also when she's in jail on the prison ship, that's also, there's no humans on this prison ship, which... Nope. You just put somebody in who supposedly killed a Jedi, and you didn't have any Jedi there to make sure she gets to where she's going.
Nah, who needs it?
Who needs it?
Droids are good at their job.
Yep. She can't use the Force.
No, she sucks.
She sucks.
Worst Jedi ever.
She's the worst.
No wonder they kicked her out. Even Sabine used the Force.
Yeah. Sabine's not even a Jedi, and she could use the Force. So they said something to her about attachments to the ones we lost are the most difficult to let go. Yord says stiffly. This one article they were talking about how stiff the Jedi are and how very robotic-like they are. But yeah, so they said that she killed Master Indira. She's on the ship. The other criminals, the one dude was cool with the tongue that came out of the top of his head.
I'm like crying.
You're crying. You're very upset about it.
I am. The tongue that came out the top of his head.
The thing came out of the top of his head. He grabbed the robot as he was walking by. That thing.
Oh,
that,
that's right. Yeah.
Strangled him.
That's
came
right.
out of the top of his head. It was like
you're right.
another arm or whatever it was. He pulls him in, rips his head off, then rips his arm off, and uses his arm. To open up the jail cells.
Seems like a bad design.
Yeah.
For that jail.
Yeah, and it was the parasite that they put on the guy's mouth.
Oh, that weird thing.
That was weird. That was pretty cool. They're like, she was like, "Is it hurting him?" And they're like, "No, he's in a really good place." So he's like totally stoned out of his mind.
Yep.
So it was pretty funny. And then
I did laugh when they took the parasite out and he just ran into the pot.
He just ran right to the thing.
That really made me laugh.
And then OSHA was like, "Wait, what about me?"
Yep.
And then
better strap in.
Yeah, so she straps in. It was neat seeing the seats going from
from
autopilot,
droid mode.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So then, of course, and because whatever they did, I don't even know how they forced it out of hyperspace mode, but whatever they did, the one bad guy who had like a head on top of a robot, he somehow was able to force it out of hyperspace mode. And, of course, it came out in a spot that it shouldn't have come in.
Right in front of a planet.
Right in front of a planet, but also in an asteroid field, so it was bouncing all over the place. That looked very silly to me.
Yeah.
The way it was bouncing around, it looked very silly to me. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just over whatever.
I'd have to look over it again.
Yeah. So then she straps into the only chair that has a strap on it, which is what they had, like, buckets. I don't know why they were strapping the buckets in there, but whatever. And then, we meet her little droid.
Pip.
Oh, Pip.
It's a handheld droid.
Yeah, it's a BlackBerry droid.
Yeah, right?
Um,
Imagine your phone could talk to you. Oh, God,
I know.
it can already.
It can already. It's already listening.
Pip.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how useful that thing actually becomes. Because it can't walk. It can't do anything.
I'm sure it will save the day in a ridiculous way.
Uh-huh.
And then it will sell so many toys.
So many toys. There's going to be so many because it makes binging noises.
You can literally sell it as a little thing that kids can
that the kids are just going to play with, and maybe they'll move around the top piece and whatever. Lights will show up and whatever. So then the thing crashes, and of course the same people go down because the guy from Squid Games.
Yes.
What was his
Master
name?
or something.
Yes. Where is he?
Master Squid Game.
Master Squid Games. He's like, "Oh, she was my Padawan. I will go find her." But yeah, he was from Squid Games. So they go down, and of course, right away, nobody could survive this.
Of course
Your
not.
boy Yord says, and they say, maybe they could.
Maybe they could.
They might have been able to.
Maybe we look.
And then he feels her. Squid Games feels her presence, and he starts chasing her into a cave. And then in a very Harrison Ford,
yes, the fugitive.
That's
exactly what I thought. I didn't kill my wife.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.
Again, I was very glad that there wasn't this big I didn't kill her. I'm glad it wasn't that, and that she just jumped and went on the lamb. I'm glad that was like all right, we believe you. Let's move the plot on.
Let's move the plot on. Yeah. So then she slips because it's of course an ice planet on a cave up in 100,000 feet in the air, and then Squid Game saves the day, freezes her, brings her back up, and then he says, "Yeah, I know you didn't kill her," because then he's also on the phone with another Jedi Master.
Vernestra Rowe.
Yeah, and they're like, yes, May attacked somebody else while she was in your custody, so we know she didn't do it.
Yeah.
Why he didn't share that with Yord and Tashi, I have no idea. But he was like, no, we're just going over here to try and figure out what happened.
Yep.
And whatever. And then the guy that they run into, when I was watching it on my phone, so of course it was a very small screen. I thought he was standing at first when the Jedi Master's in the meditative state.
Yeah.
And then I see his knees out in front of him, and I'm like, wait, what? And I realized that it was just his cape was just hanging down.
And he had the weirdest, like, receding hairline.
Yes.
Like, he has a widow's peak, but it was way back here. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was like,
and
kind of like Brainiac or something.
there was, I can't find where it is. Oh, I'm a little ahead. Oh darn it! That must be in the next. That must be in the next episode. Okay, because then she says I didn't do it. He says I know, and then we cut to May wandering along a beach where a creepy Kylo Ren looking figure performs a monologue and says an acolyte kills without a weapon. An acolyte kills the dream. And that's the end of the first episode.
And he takes out his lightsaber, right? And he goes,
and he shows you the red lightsaber.
He's like, I'm the bad guy.
I'm the bad guy. Mine is red. I broke the crystal.
It's like at the end of Solo when Maul goes like this and gets his lightsaber out.
And
does nothing with it.
And does nothing with it.
I have a lightsaber.
Yeah, I want to see.
I'm a hologram, but I can't do anything with it, but I have a lightsaber.
But I have a lightsaber. Just want to let you know that I have this lightsaber. So then episode 2 starts up, May walking through Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. It did look a lot like that. Yeah. Now, it wasn't. It would have been really cool. I would have liked it. And I also would have liked it if they referenced it. And this outpost supposedly is hundreds of years old.
Yeah. Black Spire.
Black Spire. Would have been really cool if they did reference it as Black Spire. That would have made it really, really cool. But they haven't done that yet. So then she goes to Master Torben, sneaks up behind Master Torben and tries to execute him with more throwing knives. But he's got that force bubble around him.
He's got a force field.
And then
because he has taken the Barash vow.
Yes, that is what he has done.
So the Barash vow, for those not in the know, is a vow taken by a Jedi who feels they need to separate themselves from the Jedi and the Force for some act of penitence, or something. Like usually they'll go out into seclusion, oftentimes like in the wilderness, and live alone. And cut themselves off from the Force for however long they need. Usually they don't just find an outpost and find a room and say, I'll be in this room for the next decade.
Right.
But, who knows? But yeah, that's the Barash vow.
That's who. I said he looked like Neil Patrick Harris.
He did kind
in a series of unfortunate events. Was a kids movie that he was in.
Yep.
He kind of looked like him. And at first I thought it was him. And so I wasn't going to be too upset
I'm glad
if they
didn't
killed
give
him
us
right
any
away.
annoying cameos that would take us. I was worried we were gonna like a Lizzo moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a Jack Black Lizzo moment. Yeah, we didn't see any of those, which is good.
Yeah.
They decided to spend all the money on making sure that the scripts were nice and long.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
large font.
I did like during this first encounter with him, she's like trying to fight him, and everything she does is just stopped by this invisible force bubble, and she's like, well, maybe if I try from this angle. Nope, I'll try from this angle.
I'll throw daggers at the force bubble.
I'll throw daggers at it, see what that does. No, none of this works. And then somebody starts to come in, so then she disappears. So then we're back, and then this is when he find out, we're going there instead. And they take Osha along for the ride. At this point, like, they know that she didn't do it. He knows that she didn't do it. But I feel like, why isn't he sharing this information? But whatever. So then they head over to a local black market dealer for killing Torben. She's surprised. Chill wandering around in broad daylight. Oh, yeah. She's just like walking around, the May. And then May goes and she talks to this guy. She talks to...
Creepy McCreeperson.
Yeah, what's his name from? I just said it. Jason. And she's like, you weren't supposed to sample the merchandise. He was like, I was bored. There was, I'm waiting for you to come back. So of course, and he sounded just like regular Jason. He was the exact same.
Man.
No, man. Yeah, the same character or whatever. But I liked him in that, and I like him in this so far. He's, But then he makes her the spell. He tells her, you gotta. He says something about how he can beat him without a weapon. You gotta give him what he wants, type of thing.
Right.
And
he says the thing. He says, peace is a lie.
Yeah.
Right. The Jedi do whatever because in the name of peace, but peace is a lie. Which again is could be another red herring, could be another dog whistle, but like that's the first line of the Sith code. Peace is a lie.
Peace is a lie.
But in the trailer, he says it. In the show, he starts it and she finishes it.
She finishes it. Okay. So then she goes back to Torben. She gives him a choice: confess what he did to the Jedi Council or die. And
he says, "I'm out of here."
He says, "Okay, fine." He goes, "I've been meditating for 10 years, thinking about this, and perfect. I'll die." So then Osha and the whole crew come, and I don't want to say they were arguing with the guy out front, but it was such a stupid, like, we need to go see him now. And the guy's like, well, he's meditating and blah, blah. No, pal, take me there now, right, because time is sensitive. And, of course, if they want to talk to him, they would have gotten there when May was there, and they could have stopped it.
Yep.
But they didn't. So then, and then Osha sees her younger sister.
Right.
And she leads her in the back door into where Torben is meditating, and she finds him dead. She's the first one to find him dead.
And again, that's part where I'm like, come on, just walk out of there. Don't. Why are you getting closer to him? Why are you leaning down? Why are you picking up the vial?
Right. Why are you getting your fingerprints on everything? Stop touching things. You're
Have
going
you not
to be
seen MacGyver?
So then, the house guard comes in and pulls out his blue lightsaber right away, and he's ready to kill her. And then your boy, not Torben, what's his what the heck's his name? The guy that you're like the goofy guy.
Johnny Bravo.
Yord comes. I was watching her the whole time. She didn't do it.
And he says it's like such a prick.
Yeah.
He's like, she did not do it. And I was telling her the whole time.
I was behind her the whole time. I know she didn't do it.
I never took my eyes off her.
I was sneaky.
She was never for a moment alone. I started singing The Police quietly.
As I was following her.
Yes, I was behind her very softly singing.
Anyway. So he vouches for her.
Every step
she's innocent a second time.
I'm not going to sing it too much because we're going to get DCMA'd.
We're going to get DCMA'd, yeah. So then Ahsoka seek out. But then this was also funny when he was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to that black market dealer. We're going to charge in there. We're going to arrest him. We're going to take him up to the ship. And we're going to make him talk.
And the child is like, the Padawan, by the way.
The Padawan.
So the Jedi Knight is like, you're an idiot.
You dummy. Why doesn't she go in? She looks just like him. Did you see, what was it called? Monster. It wasn't Little Monsters. It was way before that.
I loved Little Monsters.
No, this is in the 80s.
Little Monsters in the 80s?
I don't think it was that. It was the one where they... there's vampires, and they had to have like a virgin, and the one girl was like
Once Bitten.
Yeah, maybe Once Bitten.
With or twice or once. It was with Jim Carrey.
No, this is even older.
Okay.
This is even older. But it was a bunch of kids.
There were a lot of teen.
Yeah, these were like kids who were like. It was the one where they said, "Wolfman's got nards." They kicked Wolfman in the nards. But anyway, in it they go. They said something like, "We need a virgin's blood or something like that to fight off the vampire." And the older sister was like, "Oh, I'm a virgin." And then later on they go, "It's not working." And she goes, "Well, Johnny doesn't count." And
oh
then
my God!
The brother's like, "Johnny doesn't count. What are you talking about?" But then the other kid goes, "There's like a little sister who's like 4," and they go, "Isn't she a virgin?" And they go, "Oh, yeah." So then they take a little dab at her blood or whatever it is.
I gotcha.
But Wolfman's got nards. Look up that line.
I did. The Monster Squad.
Monster Squad. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, because there's also a movie, I think.
It was a movie.
Called Wolfman's Got Nards.
Oh, no, that's so funny. No, that was from the Monster Squad. Yes. Yeah. So all that was from the Monster Squad. So that was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Oh, that's funny. Wolfman's Got Nards is a 2018 documentary on the impact of the film The Monster Squad on its fans, cast, and crew.
That's so funny. So there you go. So, yeah, there was a great line in the movie. So. kick him in the nards. Wolfman doesn't have nards. Kick him in the nards. And he kicks him, and Wolfman buckles over, and then he goes, Wolfman's got nards.
I don't know how we got onto that.
I don't know either.
Exactly.
But anyway, so
Squid Game's got nards.
Squid Game's got nards. So then they go to the black market guy, and then OSHA goes in thinking he's pretending to be May, and he's like, "You're weird." And then
he was getting weirdly flirty with her too.
He was, yeah. So they're trying to lay a trap for him, but then the Jedi come in and they say, "Okay, that's enough of this." Blah blah blah, whatever. And then he says, "May, you're alive." She tosses a blade into the dirt, and you're a horrible shot. Okay, so then there's more fighting, which was good. Like we said earlier, all the fighting in this was really good. But he says, like, "Who trained you?" And that's when he finds out. He says something like, "You don't even know who trained you." So she doesn't even know who her master is. So I'm guessing he's behind a mask.
Well, we do see that helmet on the guy. Almost kind of looks like the Inquisitor we see in Ahsoka, who turns out to be nothing but green gas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Marok, wasn't it Marok or something?
Marok.
Like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. When they finally stab him and yeah. So luckily, Yord was there to save the day because she threw another knife right at Squid Games, and Yord deflected it away with his force powers to protect them. And then at the end, OSHA sees her sister getting in the car, and she has which was on stun because it was a blue circle. She has the gun all lined up, and then in very typical "I'm going to save my twin" fashion, she misses this shot.
Right.
And then misses a second shot just to make sure everybody knew that she was really trying.
I was trying.
Look, I shot at her twice. Yeah,
she dodged it. You saw that, right?
I'm a future stormtrooper. I can't help it.
That's right.
Yeah, I had this helmet on, and it made everything off balance.
That's true.
And so then we go off to Kofar, which is very far away.
How far?
Kofar.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Kofar away, which is a planet full of Wookiees, which is great because we get to kind of see.
So is it a planet full? Yeah, it did say
they said it's like a Wookiee planet. Yeah.
And then we see I forget the guy's name, but we do see a Wookiee Jedi at the very end. We get a glimpse of him.
Yes, we see two idiots who are like, "Oh, let's go rob this place."
Yeah.
And then the Wookiee Jedi pulls the weapons away and then
breaks them. Essentially, we get the beginning of Shrek here.
Yes. Shrek, get out.
We got this old guy living in a swamp saying, "Get off my swamp.
Get out of my swamp. This is my swamp."
That's it.
But we all need to live here, says Pinocchio.
We're about to meet Lord Farquaad.
We did. Lord Farquaad kicked us all out.
That's right.
You can't come to my swamp. Yeah, so that's the way it ends, and then
it does end very abruptly.
It does end very abruptly.
When it ended, Peg and I were just kind of like,
and short because the first episode was 40, so it wasn't too bad. The second episode was a little over 30, and just was like, okay, we're gonna do a commercial break here, and we're gonna stop this. And
it's like, hey, here's a Wookiee. We can't think of a good way to end it, but hey, you've never seen a Wookiee Jedi before.
Yeah, look at this Wookiee Jedi. He pulled the weapons to him, and then he goes into his. It was funny if you looked at the house. It looked like they had to make the door taller just for him, the Jedi, which made me laugh.
And that's the first quarter of the Acolyte.
That is the first quarter of the Acolyte. All done, that fast.
Yeah. So again, I think I like it. I like where it's going. I hope they continue this trajectory of not giving us like exactly what we're expecting.
Right.
And I am going to continue to hope without much faith that they get freaking longer episodes.
Yeah, I think you're barking up a dead horse there. I don't know if that's the right term.
I love that. You just took barking up the wrong tree and beating a dead horse
and put
them together.
Yeah,
beating up the wrong horse. You're beating up the wrong horse.
Barking up a dead horse.
Barking up a dead horse.
Barking up a dead horse or beating up the wrong tree. Yes. Yeah. So, Yeah, whatever it is, we're doing the wrong thing here.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
You're right.
I hate to tell you that,
You're
but
right.
yeah.
It's okay, but a man can dream.
A man can dream. That's what Walt Disney did.
Yeah, and look where it got him.
Look where it got him.
Dead.
He's dead. He would have been 110, but
Yeah, he's
dead.
That's what you get for following your dreams.
That's right.
So yeah, well, is it one episode released next time, or
I think
it's just a one.
So where's my mouse?
You never know with them. They're like, "There's one. Oh, we're gonna drop 3." Just kidding.
Yeah. So episode 3 comes out on the 11th. Episode 4 on the 18th. Episode 5 on the 25th. Episode 6 on July 2nd. Episode 7th, July 9th, and episode 8, July 16th. Yep. So
right.
there's one a week for the next 7 weeks.
Well,
so there we go.
We will be back here talking about it.
We will. Don't forget to check out all the other Star Wars, all the other Disney shows that we got on this Ears Up network. Ears Up, Scraping the Vault, Puny Pod for those puny human Marvel fans out there. Yes,
indeed. Supreme Resort, all those good ones. Check them all out. Check out our social medias, Bantha Book Podcast. On Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok.
There is a TikTok account. It has
these bubbles are like, ugh.
They are bubbling up in your throat there.
Yeah. My problem is I don't know how to burp.
Okay.
I can't make myself burp. And so they all just kind of go, ugh, and everyone's just like, swallow air. It's like, that doesn't help.
I was going to say dogs don't know how to sneeze, but they do.
They do, yeah.
So.
They sneeze a lot.
They sneeze a lot.
I bet there was a Snapple fact somewhere.
I bet there was.
Dogs can't sneeze. Oh, really?
Whoa, look at that. I learned something.
Teaching you something new every day.
That's right.
This is Bantha Mill Podcast saying, we have spoken.
We have spoken a lot.
Yeah, it was a long one.